Good afternoon. It's Friday, June 27th, 2025. Already June 27th. I'm Andrew Pritchard with Nutrien Solutions, talking to you about the Canadian Prairie here and what we've got over the next 2 weeks or so. It's going to be a bit of a warmer, drier 2 weeks overall, but we do have some chances for storminess here. So we got scattered storms now. We have a stormy pattern that's going to kind of ebb and flow over the next 2 weeks. And then as you just kind of look at the next 2 weeks overall, I do see kind of a warmer, drier pattern, just, broadly speaking across the pattern. The further north you go, the stormier it is. The further south you go, the little bit more concerned I am that you got more warm, dry days than you do days with chances for storms. Now, over the last 10 days, looking from the Prairie all the way down across the Corn Belt, we had corridors of storms, and you were one of the stormier regions here. We had some areas 2 to 4 inches, in some cases more than that, in areas that we talked about, focused on central and southern Alberta into central portions of Saskatchewan. But you can find some 1 to 2 inch totals across southeastern, southern portions of Saskatchewan, some corridors of some storminess across southern Manitoba. And that's the area that was a little bit, drier over the last 10 days or so. And I would say that's probably the area that has a better chance of getting more routine storms over the next 10 to 14 days. So maybe kind of hitting some areas that were missed over the last, 10 to 14 days or so. But broadly speaking, we got a good drink over the last 2 weeks. That's going to be good news because I think that, again, the pattern kind of ebbs and flows over the next 2 weeks. We're not shifting into something like 2021. Not at all what I'm trying to tee up here, making you nervous here, but just it's not a parade of big storm systems like that. Again, we talked last week about opening up this window of opportunity, and I think it stays open. I just think that they're going to be a little bit more spread out here over the next 10 days. Right now, we do have a couple little subtle disturbances making their way across the Prairie as we kind of focus in on this area. You see some patches of these white clouds. These are storms, some showers and some storms. We got a big area of low pressure right here across the Great Lakes with a front extending from Lake Michigan here down across the southern plains of the U.S. And you see the same thing, just storms blowing up here. We had one right here where I live just around 10 or 11 o'clock this morning, a nice little storm blowing up. So we've had this ridge kind of focused here across the central and eastern U.S. It's going to kind of shift off toward the Canadian Prairie, the northwestern U.S. as we head toward the end of June into early July, and that's going to kind of shift the pattern a bit. So the radar right now, again, some corridors of showers and storms, a lot of you on the dry side, of course, right now. This is not a widespread rain event, but again, scattered showers and storms popping up this afternoon. That's going to be the case tomorrow as well before we kind of shut things down for a couple of days with storms returning mid to late next week. Temperatures right now, generally on the warm side, except where we've got some shower and storm activity going on. A lot of folks topping her out in the 25, 26, 27 degree range here this afternoon. And temperatures, again, going to be on the warmer side over the next 2 weeks, but get used to a lot of days like this with temperatures, again, in the mid to upper 20s with those daily maximums and then overnight lows probably 12, 13, 14, 15 degrees, something like that. Not a lot of, shifting, not a lot of extreme heat in the near term, but just kind of a steady warm pattern here as we go through late June into early July. Near-term precipitation. Again, scattered showers and storms, that's the name right now. And as I just animate the forecast through the weekend, that continues for a couple more days before we you see them fade there towards the end of the animation. So if I just kind of time this out, it's about 24 to 48 hours of storms before we get about 48 to 72 hours of dry across the region. So here's your Friday storms moving across the region. They kind of fizzle during the overnight. We'll see those thunderstorms fire back up Saturday afternoon and Saturday evening as these little disturbances kind of run along a really weak frontal boundary across the area. We'll look for some bigger thunderstorms, unfortunately, off to the south and to the east of you here. Just not going to be kind of in line for the heaviest rain with this little disturbance sneaking through. We get into Sunday, maybe some showers lingering across eastern Saskatchewan, central and southern Manitoba. This is not a heavy rain event by any means. And then we get this ridge that kind of builds in and, again, pauses the precipitation opportunities for us as we get into the early part of the next work week. All of this kind of just associated with the jet stream running right along the U.S. and Canadian border. Again, right now, we're kind of going to find ourselves between systems, but as I kind of flip it over and look at the vorticity right now, and I'll animate this for you in a moment, if you can see just this little ribbon of green and yellow colors here running along the southern tier of Saskatchewan, Alberta, and of Manitoba. I can't get the cursor to show up here. I apologize. I don't know why it's glitching on me right now, so I can't point it out to you, but if I animate it, I know that I will be able to. So here we go. Let's bring it back. Let me pause on today. This is what I'm trying to show you right here. This little kind of ribbon of color, this little area of vorticity. This is where we just have some subtle spin within the jet stream and interacting with that warm summertime air mass, we're able to pop up some scattered showers and storms. Now, as I draw this through Saturday into Sunday and then eventually into Monday, you see kind of this bigger swirl manifest here as these little disturbances kind of congeal into a bigger upper level low that dives into the Great Lakes. You see another little swirl up here across the northern tier. Let me jump back here. I apologize for that. Got a little bit click happy there. So I bring it back here. This is where we find ourselves kind of beneath this ridge. We lose the ribbon of green and yellow, so we lose the jet stream disturbances here to kick off showers and storms. Does it ever come back? Well, we kind of got to roll it out through July 2nd, July 3rd, into July 4th, and now we're going to start to get some of these kind of more organized disturbances, little short waves is what I would call it, kind of flung over the top of the ridge. They then ride over the top of the ridge through the Canadian Prairie, the Dakotas, the upper Midwest, and then at times down into the Great Lakes, portions of the central and eastern Corn Belt. So this is a pattern. You see a chance here, July 3rd, July 4th. You find yourselves back in a little ridge between waves here with another break in the precipitation. And then we get into here. This would be July 7th, Monday, July 7th. We're 10 days out into the future. We've got another big bowling ball coming in here. This would be another chance for shower and thunderstorm activity, showers and storms riding over the top of that ridge. You get another one sometimes kind of following on the backside. Now, as I get further and further out here, we have to understand, don't get hung up on the specifics. But what I'm looking for sometimes as I get further out here is, a loud signal that really says the pattern's going to shut down. And I don't see that. What I see is just kind of this ridge wobbling, and I'll show you it here with the 500 millibar chart here. But the ridge kind of just wobbling around, not blossoming into a huge problem across, the Canadian prairies or the western U.S., just kind of shifting around. And as it shifts, the stormy corridor in the area of warmer temperatures kind of follows with it. So let's look at your rainfall forecast here. This is going to be the precipitation forecast from the European model. Bringing it back to your Friday, Saturday, just rocking back and forth. You see the scattered storms that fire up during the afternoon. Again, this is not a widespread drought-breaking rain, but it's at least keeping some spotty showers in the area. And again, I mentioned the eastern areas here of Saskatchewan and Manitoba. Maybe the chance that those showers linger into the day on Monday before we get a quieter start to the next work week in most areas. Can't rule out pop-up showers and storms. Can't rule out a pop-up downpour in some of these areas, especially as you get closer to the Front Range and the foothills in Alberta. Get some of the terrain influence there, but by and large, a drier pattern as we head through the middle part of next week. It's as we get towards, as I mentioned, July 3rd and 4th, you see the thunderstorms returning here. This is midnight July 4th, if you wanted to believe it. Verbatim, a cluster of thunderstorms moving out of Alberta into Saskatchewan, but you just look for these green pulses to return to the area. This is July 7th, again, July 8th. This would be another dry spell, I mentioned. Then you get between systems, and then here comes another surge, another area of low pressure, July 11th, July 12th, towards the end of the run here. So in the near term, this is through the weekend. Again, these little disturbances along that boundary kind of focused along Highway 16. This is not a heavy rain event, but some areas along Highway 16, certainly in that 10 to 20 millimeter range. Further east you get, where you maybe get a chance for those showers lingering into Sunday, perhaps some areas getting closer to 30 millimeters. As you get a little further south, southern Alberta, southern Saskatchewan, it's going to be a dry weekend for you. I mean, there's going to be maybe a couple pop-up showers and storms, but those areas on the drier side, and I know that is where I got a lot of folks here who are pretty desperate for that moisture. So ground truth me here, if you don't mind. Tell me how the rains affected you over the last 10 days, and then, what some concerns about dryness heading into early July might mean. Did the rains help? Did it mitigate something here, or is this next 10 to 14 days going to be pretty rough? As I show you your next 10 days, again, Highway 16, central Alberta, central Saskatchewan, central and southern portions of Manitoba, the stormy pattern really does continue, and I've got good confidence in that. I mean, you're seeing 10-day rainfall totals getting into the 40 to 60 millimeter range in some of these areas along Highway 16, but you look at southern Alberta, you look at southern Saskatchewan, and you start to see why I've got concern. Alarm bells, no, because the opportunities are there, and it could be that, in this particular forecast run, we're just getting missed, and maybe we do get one or two of these days where that window of opportunity is still certainly open. Look at North Dakota. We got 40 millimeters of rain down there. Same thing up into Manitoba, and you're just kind of in between. And unfortunately, that can't happen. But this is not a widespread shut-down ridge that's building across the region. As I mentioned, this is, again, I'm concerned about some pockets of dryness here across the prairie. Your next 15 days, same model. You see it there, just southern Alberta, southern Saskatchewan. I've got concerns. You could be missed by what's otherwise a pretty off and on again stormy pattern across the prairie into the northern plains. So another way to look at this as we just kind of finish up the precipitation totals, this is the probability of picking up less than a half an inch over the next 15 days. You see a lot of white. Where you see white, that's where you got a great chance of a half an inch, maybe more than that, over the next 10 to 14 days. But where you see the orange and the red shading across southern Alberta, southwestern Saskatchewan, that's where you've got that 60 to 70% chance of not getting half an inch of rain over the next 10 to 14 days, with some warmer days stacked in there. You get a little bit of concern there. So again, shout out if you're in southern Alberta, southwestern portions of Saskatchewan, give me your current situation here and what a drier 10 to 14 days, if you do get missed here, might mean for you. How much I need to do a rain dance and cross my fingers, I guess, might be my reasoning there. So let's just finish this up. Let's look at the jet stream here. And this is what I mentioned here. This is not, we're not seeing a big area of red, permanently setting up across the prairie. This is not 2021. This is not one of our worst, ends to June and beginnings to July that we've seen across the region. It's just not, a big storm system parked right overhead. It's a ridge that ebbs and flows. It's been focused over the eastern U.S. predominantly. We've been setting not all-time daily high temperature records here down in Illinois, but we're on a stretch of mid 90 degree Fahrenheit days, just extremely uncomfortable, with heat advisories in place here, just 6, 7, 8 days in a row as this ridge has spun overhead. It's going to migrate west as we head through the weekend into early next week. You see it here just kind of building in across the prairies and the northwestern U.S. as we get into the early part of next week. But it doesn't turn into a big area with closed off circles here and these colors that get into the darker orange and the red shading here, which is, now we're talking about prolonged excessive heat and a full shutdown to thunderstorms across the region. Instead, it just keeps on moving. You see the ridge kind of flatten out at times. We allow some of these little disturbances to send, again, little short waves over the top of the ridge that kick off thunderstorm clusters at times every maybe 2 to 4 days. We take it through the end of the forecast period here. This would get us into July 10th. Certainly the ridge is building across the region. It leans warmer and drier, but this is not a full alarm bell forecast for you at this time. Certainly, if I put the next 15 days, your temperature anomaly forecast, the precipitation anomaly forecast all together, you can see the reason for some concern across southern Alberta and southern Saskatchewan there as it leans warmer and drier over the next 15 days. And that, of course, is just coupled with, the current situation, the drier soil in those areas. Temperatures here, again, not any, near-term risk of soaring into an open runway of days with highs in the 30s or anything like that, but we're certainly going to be on the warmer side as we flip through these locations. Calgary, Edmonton, you see those highs getting into the 23 to 26 degree range for much of next week. Saskatoon, 25 to 26, maybe 27. Could see these creep a couple degrees higher as we get into the first, few days of July as this forecast kind of figures itself out. But again, days with highs 33 to 34, not in the immediate near-term forecast. Regina, 26 to 27 for a lot of your highs there. In Winnipeg here, 31 on Saturday, but again, a bit cooler as we head through the weekend into the rest of next week. Highs generally in the upper 20s with chances for storms every 2 to 4 days. So we'll get together again next week. We'll kind of just take this week by week. Again, ground truth me if you would like. Let me know where you are, what the soil situation is there, and what your concern is as I just went through this next 10 to 14 days. Have a great weekend. I'll talk to you again next week.